It's time for our weekly conversation with Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. And I can't wait to talk public sector salaries and pensions. But before we do,
Yeah.
I do want to pick up on the commentary you just heard from Jeannie Ives and this business of Goshen, of course, being tied to the Chinese Communist Party and thus being tied to the Chinese Communist Party's human rights abuses like slave labor camps and genocide against the Uyghur Muslim minorities there. Well, I just want somebody to ask. Maybe you can go to his next presser, Amy, because I just want somebody to ask Jelly Belly to square the circle for us, Mister Progressive. Like all the leftists, fighters for the downtrodden, and the marginalized, and the people of color, and the minorities being oppressed. And yet here we're underwriting, we're underwriting one of their ventures to come to our fair land. I mean, it's just...
You just can't make this stuff up.
You cannot. Ted, thanks for joining us.
Ted,
Hey, thanks for having me on. Hey,
Yeah.
you can ask him that question, Dan, but he'll do just like he did with education results. He'll say it's a Republican talking point. He'll say it's not true, and move on, and nobody will challenge him.
It's not true. It's not so the Chinese Uyghur Muslims are not being oppressed, and they're not in camps in China. That's not true. That's fake news.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear him say it.
Yeah.
That would at least spark something. I mean, he can, offer those beautiful lies, and they're not even that attractive, all he wants. But at least maybe it would spark some. Wait, what? If that's the best you can do to try to cover up being in bed with Chinese communist gulag operators.
Well, hey, good. Well, good for Darren LaHood, our congressman, for stepping up and joining that list of a few congressmen who challenged on that, because it should be challenged.
Yeah. I just find that really something to behold. And of course, you're right. The Chicago and Illinois Political Press Corps, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil against the power structure. I get it. Speaking of the power structure, first you get the pension and then you get the women. No, I don't know exactly how that goes with public sector. I just know how it went with Tony Montana. First you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women. For these public sector workers in Illinois, first you get the phony baloney job, then you get the guaranteed 7-figure pension, and then you move to Arizona or Florida. Did I have that right?
Yeah, it sounds about right. It's just what a lot of certainly a lot of the superintendents do. They go get big cushy jobs in Arizona and California, start over again.
All right, so let's have some fun with this. Let's go through these tables that you've put together of some of the biggest tax eaters that the Western world has ever seen.
Well, first thing we have to understand is that we have two classes of workers now in Illinois, and I think it's the ultimate undoing of Illinois, because it's too expensive and it's unfair. But you got one class, the government class. They get the guaranteed multi-year contracts with guaranteed raises and guaranteed COLAs and sick leave days and all that. And they all add up, and they're all constitutionally protected, or through Amendment 1 or through the Pension Protection Clause. And then you got the other class of people who don't get any such benefits, right? They don't get any of those protections, and yet they're forced to pay for that first class. And so I think that's already happening. That's why a lot of people leave. They can't stand it. So that's what this report is about, is that there's 140,000 members in the Illinois government's 100K plus salary or pension club. It's 50% more than just 5 years ago. So it's they're compounding and growing, and that's the absurdity of what's happening in Illinois.
Wait, there's 50% more state of Illinois employees that are making $100,000 than there were 5 years ago.
Yeah, so in 2018 there was about 94,000, and now we're at 143,000. And and you can imagine what's going to happen when places like CTU get their 9% compounded raises for 5 years in a row, right? You'll just get a whole bunch more.
I mean,
like the teachers union.
So some of my speaking of the teachers, the CPS chief of staff is CPS chief of staff is the top salaried Chicago Muni worker, city of Chicago worker. Pedro Martinez makes $375,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Not bad at all.
No, I
And
mean,
what do we have to show for it?
well, well, I don't know. I asked Corey Brooks that answer. We just did. It's not great.
3% in his neighborhood.
What you have to show for it is death of civilization, reading and math scores, which explains the death of civilization in Chicago. It's sort of pretty straightforward. Here's one of my favorites, and you have to put. I'm sure you have some of your favorites to highlight the lunacy of this all, Ted. Theodore Flickinger, I guess he was the former head of the Illinois Association of Park Districts. His pension is $303,000. The head of the Illinois Association of Park Districts, $300,000 pension. That's like that has to be. I don't know exactly what age you retired, but that has to be a net present value pension of upwards of $10 million.
Yeah, easy. What's amazing, he didn't even work. I mean, he doesn't. It's not a park district employee. He's for the Association of Park Districts,
right? Which is funded, which is funded by the park districts, though.
But what does he do?
I assume he was the head of it.
Yeah.
What is that? What does he do as the head of it? I have no idea. Nobody else does either.
And construction paper in a room.
I don't know. He says, "Hey, put this swing set over here and have this softball league." I don't know. Ted, go ahead. Give us a favorite,
and the other guy who's Brad Cole, who was at least we'll take phone calls and discuss important issues with me, and I like that. But he's also part of a association, the Illinois Municipal League, $505,000 in total pay, and again that's an association. I think they're no longer those people in associations are no longer a part of the pension plans, but he is. Based on the past, so $505,000. I mean, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I like Brad. I've known Brad a long time. I like him, but I mean, it's sort of like saying, I like former state senator Ed Petka. He was a good state senator, a good conservative. But I mean, the fact that in retirement he has from the state senate, his pension is $236,000. I mean, come on, man, come on.
They know they're ripping us off, too.
For a part-time job, for a part-time temporary job, and it's, I mean temporary not in the sense of, it should be temporary, a couple of few terms, and then move on. $236,000 for life. I mean, come on, Senator, right? Yeah. And Judy Irwin, a state rep's right behind him at $207,000. Patrick Quinn, for all his years being a gadfly, he's making $170,000. And the other piece of this too, which I know you probably know off the top of your head, but is just like we talked about the superintendents, what they put in for these guaranteed 7-figure pensions they're getting out. I mean, it's pennies on the dollar in terms of return.
Yeah, we're not. They put in money based on their average salaries over time, so they don't. The formulas for pensions are based on when they retire. So this is the really high number. What they put in is based on when they were young workers, and so it's a total disconnect. It's a great return for the pensioners, horrible for taxpayers, of course.
Well, look at Jesse White. I mean, he retired at 88, and his pension is now $260,000 a year, and he stands to collect $1.3 million in retirement.
Yeah, well. 1 point, yeah. I mean, depending on how long he lives. I mean, obviously he's up there. He waited longer. That was his choice. He was doing quite fine the whole way along. But I mean, these numbers, and then of course the university systems too.
Oh boy, that's.
How
is this all sustainable? I don't get it.
Now I know you have like some doctors and things like that are state employees, but again, it's sort of the same thing. You just can't have hundreds of thousands of people that are making, collectively hundreds of millions of dollars to not work, which is what we have.
Well, and not only that, they get to retire really early. So the big one on the university list is a guy named Konstantin Slavin, and he's again some high-powered surgeon of some kind, and I'm sure from a private sector perspective, maybe that's his value. I don't know, but the problem is that he retired at age 54. And in his current pension is $725,000 a year.
Oh.
And if he lives to be the normal expected lifespan, he will get $30 million in benefits. So, you're asking ordinary Joe Blow, who lives in I don't know, in Carbondale somewhere to pay taxes, to pay for these things. And it's, This is why people leave Illinois. I can't afford it. And don't forget, we have the most units of government. So whatever we're talking about here gets replicated over and over and over because we have so many units of government.
Right.
And there's so many people like Slavin.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is reverse Robin Hood, but they've done a number. I've written about this. I wrote about it at johncast.com several months back. They've done a number. They sold everybody on this scheme back when they amended the Constitution in 1970, and and Madigan figured it out. It's not about salaries on the front end. It's about pensions on the back end. The salaries will catch up, and the pensions will be gold plated, and that's exactly what's happened. And somehow they've sold the people that are underwriting this at the cost of their home values. That hey, well, you don't want to hate teachers or cops or firefighters or public sector workers. These are all public servants. You don't want to be against the public servants, do you? You want to respect people who work in the public sector. They're sacrificing. They're sacrificing to serve you at the municipal level, at the township level, at the county, at the state level, at your park district, at your K through 12 school system, and so forth. They've totally won the marketing war, haven't they?
Well, they have, and I tell you the other angle of that. And that's a huge point what you're making. This is why we're struggling so much to figure out how to handle this problem. But the other big thing was that people don't understand is all this. Pensions were underfunded. Well, the unions loved that because the more money that went to salaries, to jack up salaries, who cares about the pension funding? That's constitutionally protected. We'll worry about that later. The more money that went into salaries today, the higher those future pension benefits went. And this is why it's so crazy. And now, of course, they just say, hey, let's find the money, get a bailout, raise taxes. Who cares? We owe this money to pensioners. So it's a huge problem.
Right, and the point you made before, or you've been making for years, actually, is it's the generous nature of the pension benefits, starting with the 3% COLAs that compound for decades when we had sub 3% inflation, but also the defined benefit aspect of it too, that it's guaranteed, as contrasted from defined contribution plans, and that even if you would have funded the pensions on a rolling basis at the levels that you were increasing the benefits, you still couldn't keep up. There's no way to actually fund this without shutting down most of the rest of government.
Yeah, that's what we proved several times, and we should update that. Is that the benefits were growing so fast that and we compared it to the rest of the country, right? So we're in the top 3 for how fast we're doling out benefits, and so taxpayers can't keep up. And this is if you look at our population, I think I can only blame our being so far behind in population growth compared to the other states in the country and even our neighbors is because of this thing right here. It gets too expensive to live here. It eventually impacts jobs. There's not enough good jobs, and and it also covers the corruption that we have here. So you put the too expensive, not enough good jobs, and corruption. Well, guess what? I'm out of here, and that's what we're doing to people. Is we're pushing them out.
Wow, this is like a lot of doom and gloom here.
Well, it's Illinois. It should change its name to Doom and Gloom.
Yeah,
it's more descriptive, or maybe put that on the license plates. Land of Doom and Gloom.
Well, at some point on some of these things, we're going to have a litmus test of some kind, right? And and I'm saying someday, right? Someday.
Yeah.
That you can't continue this. You can't continue. You can't continue without school choice. All those things, it's either going to be this kind of government we have, and let's keep it. We'll keep shrinking and becoming more and more emaciated, or we'll flip all this one day. But that one day is nowhere near right now.
Yeah, this is still a death cult at this juncture. We'll see. Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org. All things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
With over 3 decades of serving up streetwise insight and local perspective on Page 2, the voice of John Cass has a home at johncassnews.com.
I'm John Cass. And for too long, so-called progressives have been ruining our world. They've been stepping on us. They've twisted everything from the schools to the media in the hopes of crushing our liberty. Traditional media, mainstream media, like the paper, and anything else you see on TV, well, they're in on it. And that's why you need to join me at johncastnews.com for your daily cup of Midwestern commentary.